General Hospital spoilers indicate that Josslyn Jax may discover Britt Westbourne alive. Will this resurgence coincide with Professor Henry Hank Dalton's research? Britt rescued Josslyn's life the night she was stung by Heather Weber's deadly hook. Although Britt eventually paid a deadly price, she died a hero. Now that we know Kelly Thibault is returning to ABC's General Hospital, Britt might conceivably resurrect from the dead. There's a chance Thibault will play another character instead, but we must contemplate the prospect of Britt resurrecting. That takes us to a clue that Daniel Goddard shared on social media in April. Goddard noted that Professor Dalton was mentored by Sir John Gordon, a developmental biologist and Nobel Prize laureate, known as the godfather of cloning. Gordon's study on cloning and nuclear transplantation was groundbreaking, so what if Professor Dalton is also conducting cloning research? It's understandable that Professor Dalton would want to continue expanding on the work of his idol. The WSB knows a lot about Professor Dalton's nefarious dealings, but they don't know everything. If they did, they would not need Josslyn Jax to trick Professor Dalton and probe around. Since Britt previously came to Josslyn's aid, perhaps Joss might repay the favor now. What if Josslyn is the one to discover Britt is alive, and possibly being held hostage as a lab rat somewhere? Perhaps Britt's death was staged using a clone or something similar. The real Britt may have survived and may require Josslyn's assistance, if this has escalated into a captive scenario. Britt's Huntington's disease diagnosis might easily be rewritten so that she was misdiagnosed or misled about the nature of her illness. If they're sticking with the lab rat concept, Britt could have had some amazing experimental cure. Naturally, we should consider the possibility that the original Britt is no longer alive and Josslyn has found a Britt clone. Regardless, there must be a reason why Professor Dalton has a cloning relationship with the mentor picked by the show. Will Josslyn finally make a surprising revelation related to the clone story? According to General Hospital teasers, Kelly Thibault will return in some form or another, so we'll keep you updated on any other interesting developments regarding her comeback. The universe of General Hospital has never shied away from unexpected twists, but the probable resurrection of Dr. Britt Westbourne would send shockwaves through Port Charles. Rumors of a possible return have circulated for months, but the most recent spoilers imply something much more explosive. Josslyn Jax may discover Britt alive, and her astonishing survival might be linked to the sinister legacy of Dr. Cameron Dalton's cloning research. If accurate, this narrative would not only bring back a fan-favorite character, but it would also immerse Port Charles in a sci-fi mystery that blurs the lines between life, death, and medical ethics. Britt Westbourne's passing was painful for fans. After a lengthy fight with Huntington's disease, she died surrounded by loved ones, leaving a legacy of atonement, love, and unfinished business. Her relationship with Jason Morgan, her complicated relationship with her mother Liesl Obrecht, and her surprise friendship with Josslyn make her one of the show's most complex characters. Bringing her back from the dead would be a dangerous move, but if executed correctly, it might transform the landscape of General Hospital in exciting ways. The key to this probable comeback is Dr. Cameron Dalton, a malevolent character whose studies in human cloning have already caused havoc. Dalton's art was last seen in the twisted tale of the late Dr. Liesl Obrecht's secret lab, where the lines between science and horror blurred. If Britt is alive, was she ever truly dead? Or was her death a clever trick, with Dalton's technology allowing her to be covertly kept, copied, or even resurrected by experimental means? The ramifications are startling. Could there be several Britts? Was her disease cured? Or was her fate influenced by powers she couldn't understand? Josslyn Jax, a young woman creating her own way, would be an ideal candidate to solve this mystery. Josslyn, the daughter of Carly and the late Sonny Corinthos, has always had a flair for trouble. Her emotional connection to Britt would be strong, especially if she discovered her alive. Imagine Josslyn discovering a hidden facility or receiving a cryptic message that leads her to a woman who looks just like the late doctor. The astonishment, incredulity, and torrent of inquiries are exactly the type of high-stakes drama that General Hospital thrives on. But why is Britt being kept hidden? If she is still alive, who is pulling the strings? The most persuasive answer comes in her unfinished business from the past. Britt was strongly involved with various influential characters, including her mother Liesl, former lover Jason, and even foes like Peter August. If she was surreptitiously kept or cloned, was it with her knowledge? Her connections? Was it part of a bigger, scarier experiment? Brit's homecoming could potentially revive old rivalries, particularly with Nina Reeves, who has a difficult relationship with the Westbournes. Then there's the moral quandary. What does Brit's survival through cloning or genetic manipulation signify for the other characters? Would Jason Morgan, who mourned her, have to doubt everything he knew? Would Liesl Albrecht, who had wept for her daughter, be overjoyed or horrified to learn the truth? What about the legal and ethical ramifications? If Dalton's research is still ongoing, who else might be brought back? The possibilities are limitless, ranging from Drew Kane's mysterious past to the probable return of other, deceased people. A storyline like this would also allow General Hospital to dig into more complex issues, such as technology versus humanity, the ethics of playing God, and the cost of defying death. It's a narrative goldmine combining soap opera drama and sci-fi intrigue. And with Josslyn in the center, the emotional stakes would be quite high. Would she keep Brit's survival a secret? Or would she tell the truth and risk causing chaos? One thing is certain. If Brit Westbourne is genuinely alive, life in Port Charles will never be the same. The walls of General Hospital have seen innumerable miracles and tragedies over the years, but nothing could have prepared Port Charles for the seismic shockwaves that would occur if Josslyn Jacks discovered Dr. Brit Westbourne alive and well. The mere prospect of Brit's resurrection sends shivers down the spines of every GH fan, not just because of what it implies for the character herself, but also because of the Pandora's box of information it could reveal about Dr. Cameron Dalton's diabolical cloning operations. This isn't just about resurrecting a beloved figure. It's about revealing a web of scientific manipulation that has the potential to change all we know about life, death, and medical ethics in Port Charles. Brit Westbourne's death from Huntington's disease had an emotional impact on the entire town. Her death was more than just the loss of a brilliant physician. It also marked the terrible conclusion of one of GH's most dramatic redemption stories. Brit's path from cunning villain to compassionate healer and loving friend was nothing short of miraculous. Her relationships, the complicated tie with her mother, Liesl Albrecht, the unexpected friendship with Josslyn, and the star-crossed romance with Jason Morgan, were all cut short by her tragic death. Or were they? The intriguing idea that Brit's death was staged, or that science has discovered a means to undo it, creates story possibilities that are too combustible to ignore. The key to unraveling this mystery is Dr. Cameron Dalton's dark legacy, whose unethical cloning experiments have already left an everlasting effect on Port Charles. Dalton's research is the most perilous convergence of cutting-edge science and moral uncertainty that GH has ever investigated. If Brit is still alive, the ramifications are startling. Was her death staged to protect her from a greater threat? Was her consciousness saved by experimental technology? Or, most terrifyingly, is the Brit that Josslyn may discover a clone, a perfect genetic counterpart with all of Brit's memories but none of her original body's fatal disease? These questions influence more than just Brit's plot. They threaten to upend the entire foundation of medical ethics in the General Hospital universe. Josslyn Jacks is at the right intersection to discover this earth-shattering secret. Josslyn, now a young woman pursuing her own way, inherited her mother Carly's insatiable curiosity, as well as her father Sonny's danger instinct. Her personal connection to Brit lends emotional depth to what may be a life-changing discovery. Consider the following scenario. Josslyn discovers a hidden medical facility while investigating an unrelated mystery. The pristine white walls hum with odd apparatus, and Brit is lying in a confinement chamber or recovery room, alive and breathing but plainly not free. The shock of recognition, the flood of questions, the urgent need to comprehend how this is possible. This is the type of high-stakes, character-driven drama that excels at more than any other soap. The circumstances surrounding Brit's prospective homecoming generate a slew of intriguing concerns about who could be behind it and why. If this is related to Dalton's research, the mastermind might be anyone, from a renegade scientist carrying on his work to one of Brit's loved ones desperate to save her. Liesl Albrecht, with her history of covert medical experiments, would be a strong suspect in any attempt to resuscitate her daughter. With his extensive understanding of rare diseases, the morally ambiguous Dr. Hamilton Finn may have ulterior motivations. Even Jason Morgan, who had such a strong bond with Brit, could have been part in a hidden scheme to save her life using unusual measures. The ethical quandaries raised by Brit's homecoming would spark fascinating debates throughout Port Charles. If she was cloned, does the new Brit have the same rights as the original? Is she still the same person if her consciousness has been transferred? These philosophical problems would compel characters like Elizabeth Weber, Monica Quartermaine, and Terry Randolph to confront their most fundamental views about what makes life an identity. The legal repercussions alone may provide months of captivating drama. Would this revived Brit be entitled to her former property, medical license, and relationships? Or will she be viewed as a scientific abnormality, a threat to be contained? For Josslyn, seeing Brit alive would be a watershed moment in her young adulthood. The emotional shock of seeing someone she mourned suddenly breathing again would test her in ways she had never experienced. Will she keep Brit's survival a secret while she investigates, possibly putting herself in danger? Or would she promptly contact authorities, risking Brit's disappearance again? Her connections with everyone, including her mother Carly and best friend Trina, would be put to the test as she grappled with this unthinkable revelation. Brit's homecoming would have far-reaching consequences for everyone in Port Charles. Nina Reeves, whose tangled relationship with the Westbournes has included both friction and unexpected affinity, would have to fundamentally rethink her perspective of the past. Valentine Cassadine, with his family's history of manipulating life and death, may view Brit's resurrection as either a threat or an opportunity. Even characters like Drew Kane, whose background involves memory manipulation and identity uncertainty, would find disturbing parallels in Brit's circumstances. Perhaps most intriguing is how Brit would manage her second opportunity at life. The psychological impact of realizing you were cloned, that your death was faked, or that you've been surreptitiously preserved for years would be catastrophic. Would she grapple with existential concerns about her own identity? Would she be furious with those who controlled her fate? Or would she grasp this opportunity to make amends and reclaim the relationships she had lost? The character's trademark humor and resilience would make her return to the land of the living a must-see television event. From a storyline standpoint, Brit's reappearance via cloning or other experimental ways allows GH to address current issues concerning scientific innovation and its implications. This tale would strike a deep chord with modern audiences, given that real-world developments in biotechnology and artificial intelligence are creating similar ethical concerns. The show may draw fascinating similarities between Brit's situation and current arguments over gene editing, life extension technology, and the basic notion of human awareness. The visual possibilities alone are exciting to consider. Consider the reveal. Josslyn creeps through a clandestine facility, the brightness of mystery equipment creating creepy shadows, until she turns a corner and meets Brit in some type of stasis chamber. Perhaps a more subtle approach. Josslyn receives cryptic signals that lead her to a remote spot, where a hooded figure emerges to expose Brit's recognizable face. Regardless of how the finding plays out, it will undoubtedly become one of GH's most memorable moments. For longtime supporters, Brit's comeback would be an emotional roller coaster. Her death scene is still one of the most brilliantly played and tragic scenes in recent GH history. Reversing that loss could feel like a betrayal unless handled with extreme caution. The writers would have to ensure that her resurrection contributes to the bigger story, rather than feeling like cheap fan service. However, if done correctly, it has the potential to reinvigorate several narratives while remaining loyal to the character's core. The possible consequences of this disclosure might provide years of intriguing drama. If cloning technology existed at Port Charles, who else may have been replicated? Could other deceased characters return as allies or antagonists? Would there be a black market for this technology with affluent and powerful people looking to avoid death? The mob links alone with Sonny, Jason, and the others forced to confront what this implies for their society could provide a plethora of riveting scenarios. At its foundation, Brit's potential return is more than just another soap opera revival. It's a moment to reflect on what makes us human, the lengths we'll go for those we care about, and the unexpected repercussions of playing God. Josslyn would face a coming-of-age trial by fire, pushing her to confront adult moral complexity much beyond the scope of usual college challenges. For the people of Port Charles, it would be a collective reckoning with the evil side of medical advancement. For viewers, it would be the kind of daring, emotionally charged storytelling that reminds us why we have loved General Hospital for so long. As the elements of this perspective plot begin to fall into place, one thing becomes clear. In Port Charles, the line between life and death has never been so thin. And if Josslyn Jacks is about to reveal the horrific details of Britt Westbourne's survival, the entire town may wish some secrets remained hidden. According to General Hospital spoilers, Kelly Thibault's reappearance has come as a welcome surprise to many fans. While the show has not confirmed if Thibault will reprise her role as Dr. Britt Westbourne, most GH fans would want to see the Britch make a miraculous return. To celebrate this possibility, here are 3 of Britt's best moments on the ABC serial. Moment number 1. Britt Westbourne's bond with Spencer Cassadine. According to GH spoilers, when Britt initially appeared on the canvas in 2012, she was a villain on all accounts. Having saying that, she eventually took the path of redemption. One of her most crucial romances on the drama was with Nicholas Cassadine, during which she formed a great bond with his only son at the time, Spencer Cassadine. While Britt was on the verge of becoming a villainess at the time, she was always different with Spence, and their friendship endured even years after she ended her relationship with his father. Britt and Dr. Liesl Obrecht had a strained relationship throughout the years. Both ladies weren't exactly saints in Port Charles, and as with many mother-daughter relationships, Liesl and Britt disagreed on everything for a long time. Liesl, like her daughter, worked hard over the years to lose her deceptive nature and do better. By the time Britt died, these women had successfully repaired their damaged relationships. Will GH give them a second chance to repair their bond? One of the main reasons many fans would like to see Britt return is for a romantic reunion with Jason Morgan. They had amazing chemistry and enjoyed some great moments. While Jason and Britt's passion was dimmed by their marriage to Carly Spencer in the fall of 2021, when Sonny Corinthos returned from Nixon Falls, they were preparing for a reunion. Unfortunately, Jason was assumed killed after a tunnel collapsed on him in Greece in late 2021. Britt died at the hands of the Hook, also known as Heather Weber, in 2023, only for Jason to return from the grave in early 2024. Interestingly, Jason has yet to join a relationship since his return, despite numerous offers. He kissed Anna Devane, and everyone assumed he would get involved with Sasha Corbin when he purported to be her baby daddy. With being stated now that Michael Corinthos has returned, this is extremely unlikely. Has GH been waiting for Britt's return to give Jason a genuine relationship that fans can get their teeth into? Dr. Britt Westbourne has been one of General Hospital's most engaging characters since her introduction. A smart, sharp-witted, and emotionally multifaceted lady, who effortlessly straddled the line between villain and heroine. Britt, the daughter of the notorious Liesl Obrecht and the late Caesar Faison, endured the burden of her family's terrible past while making her own path in Port Charles. Britt's time on the program was unfortunately cut short due to Huntington's illness, but she left an indelible impression on fans with her sharp brilliance, biting humor, and unexpected sensitivity. Among her many unforgettable experiences, 3 stand out as defining points in her character's path. One of Britt's most surprising and game-changing events was her brief but horrifying appearance as the Hook Killer in 2013. Port Charles was under siege at the time, with a mysterious assailant striking individuals with a hook, causing paranoia in the town. The revelation that Britt, cool, calculated, and always in control, was responsible for the attack sent shockwaves through the audience. What made this twist so intriguing was the psychological disintegration that preceded it. Britt, determined to keep her mother Liesl out of prison for crimes she did not commit, went to extreme lengths to shift suspicion away from her. Britt's acts were severe, but they were motivated by a perverted sense of loyalty, which was a constant motif in her character. Kelly Thibault's acting abilities were on full display when she was revealed, standing in the hospital with blood on her hands and a chillingly calm expression. Britt wasn't a mindless killer. She was a woman pushed to her limits, prepared to do anything to protect the few people she actually cared about. Even more intriguing was the aftermath. Unlike many soap villains, who are either irredeemably evil or easily forgiven, Britt experienced actual consequences. She was institutionalized, forced to face her own instability, and had to work her way back to respectability. This plot demonstrated Britt's complexity. She was capable of evil, but not without reason or regret. Few couplings on General Hospital were as unexpected or delightful as Britt's odd bond with Jason Morgan. At first look, they appeared to be polar opposites. Jason, the stern enforcer with a moral code, and Britt, the caustic schemer with a penchant for mischief. Nonetheless, their dynamic evolved into one of the show's most refreshing relationships, based on mutual respect, dry humor, and an underlying understanding of one another's guarded personalities. Britt and Jason formed a friendship when Britt assisted Jason in recovering from memory loss, following one of his several near-death experiences. Instead of manipulating him, she treated him with honesty, which Jason rarely received from anyone outside his small circle. Their scenes were filled with biting banter, as well as quiet trust. Britt, who had spent the majority of her life distrusted due to her family name, found an ally in Jason. And Jason, who prized loyalty above all else, saw through Britt's tough demeanor to the fiercely loyal woman beneath. One of their best moments was when Britt told Jason about her Huntington's disease diagnosis. In classic Jason fashion, he did not provide meaningless platitudes. He simply listened and pledged to assist her in any way he could. Britt experienced a rare moment of vulnerability, and Jason's calm support said volumes. Their friendship demonstrated that Britt was more than simply a schemer or a villain. She was capable of making profound connections when given the opportunity. Britt's final storyline was her most poignant. After being diagnosed with Huntington's disease, a tragic genetic fate passed down from her father, she faced death with the same humor and tenacity that marked her character. But underlying the sarcasm was a woman afraid of losing herself, becoming a burden, and dying alone. Her farewell arc reflected her own growth. Britt, no longer the manipulative doctor who terrified Port Charles, spent her remaining time trying to make atonement, helping others, and even falling in love briefly with Cody Bell. But the most dramatic moment occurred when she sacrificed herself to save baby Ace. Knowing that her time was running out, Britt's final act meant that an innocent child may enjoy the life she never fully experienced, a life free of the shadows of her family's heritage. When Britt finally succumbed to her illness, surrounded by everyone who had grown to love her, it was one of the most sad goodbyes in General Hospital history. Her death was more than simply the loss of a character. It was the loss of a woman who had worked relentlessly to reinvent herself, to be more than just a villain, more than just a Westbourne. Dr. Britt Westbourne was a character who defied simple categorization. She was a villain, a heroine, a genius, a disaster, a fighter, and finally a tragedy. Her best moments on General Hospital highlighted her cleverness, complexity, and ability to love, even when she attempted to deny it. Whether she was wielding a hook, sparring barbs with Jason, or facing death with unwavering fortitude, Britt left an indelible mark. And for fans, she is still one of Port Charles's most missed and memorable figures. General Hospital spoilers for the week of June 16th to 20th state that Willow Corinthos and Drew Kane will suffer after a terrible blow, while Jason Morgan Snoops and Josslyn Jax faces an emergency situation. For starters, GH viewers will witness the repercussions of Willow and Michael Corinthos' custody battle. You can bet that the losing side will have strong emotions and protests after Judge Eva Heron's verdict. Thanks to Cameron Matheson's Instagram leak, we know someone will blackmail Judge Heron into giving Michael the win. Whether Tracy Quartermain is to blame or someone else is concerned about the outcome of the court case, Michael is determined to obtain custody of the children. That will hurt Willow and leave Drew furious, ready to go off the rails in the following episodes. Nina Reeves will also be involved, resulting in a lot of post-courtroom mayhem. Meanwhile, Marco Rios will deal with the news of Natalia Ramirez's legal difficulties and rely on Lucas Jones during his family crisis. Sonny Corinthos will have additional challenges now that ADA Justine Turner is so determined to pursue him. Sonny and Jason may find themselves in hot water as a result. Speaking of Jason, he'll conduct some digging for Anna Devane after promising to examine Professor Henry Hank Dalton. That could lead to some surprise clues and unavoidably place Josslyn in a precarious situation that raises suspicion. When Josslyn realizes Jason is looking for information, she has to worry about him botching her WSB mission or ruining her secret if he discovers too much. Carly Spencer has been preoccupied with Michael's custody hearing lately, but she will devote some time to Jack Brennan once everything is settled. Brennan will get a surprise present that demonstrates Carly's strong affections and improves their bond. Josslyn's friendship with Vaughn will also grow stronger, as they eventually find themselves in a circumstance that draws them closer together. Could a lip lock develop sooner or later? Emma Scorpio Drake will put herself in danger with her seduction plan. It's not a good idea to lead Professor Dalton on, but Emma is doing just that, and the consequences might be terrible if she isn't careful. Nonetheless, Emma is determined to worm her way inside the lab and discover all of Professor Dalton's secrets. It will be interesting to see whether Josslyn interferes with Emma's intentions, or the other way around. General Hospital spoilers predict the week of June 16th to 20th will offer some surprises and shakeups, so keep with us for updates on all the mayhem. As the new week began, tension rose throughout Port Charles, and Willow and Drew felt the brunt of it. What began as a peaceful, hopeful morning quickly turned into a crushing blow that none of them anticipated. For weeks, they had tried to safeguard everything they had established, both personally and professionally, clinging to the hope that they could maintain routine. However, that illusion was destroyed when a single call from Pentonville altered everything. Drew's face tightened in disbelief as he brought the phone to his ear, Willow standing immediately behind him. Her palm grasped his arm, detecting a change in his energy before she heard the voice on the other end. The news was direct, clinical, and completely devastating. The federal investigation into ELQ had been reopened, and Drew's name was once again on the radar, not just as a witness, but as a potential co-conspirator. Willow pressed for information, her voice weak. Drew attempted to soften the reality, but it was evident. The immunity pact they thought was secure had fallen through. Someone had reopened the files, and someone with power was purposefully bringing Drew back into legal trouble. Willow's heart fell. After everything they had been through, Nina's treachery, the conflict with Michael, the hospital politics, this was something they couldn't repair with a chat or a cleverly worded press statement. But that wasn't the worst part. The diagnosis was not immediate, but the concern was genuine. Something was wrong, possibly terrible, and no one knew how long Josslyn had been ignoring her symptoms. Carly was contacted next, and her reaction was purely maternal. She went to the hospital, seeking answers and barely holding it together as she witnessed her daughter's vulnerability. However, underlying the fear came guilt. Carly had been so preoccupied with Sonny's unraveling and the Jason fallout that she hadn't realized how much pressure Josslyn was under on her own. As the testing progressed and Josslyn remained unconscious, old wounds reopened. Carly and Dex had a brief dispute, with each blaming themselves in different ways. Michael arrived later, his own world collapsing, and seeing his sister in this way almost broke him. He sat by her bedside, squeezing her hand and apologizing for not being present when she needed him the most. Despite the turmoil, not everyone was alarmed. Sonny, still mired in his own quagmire of mistrust and paranoia, was noticeably absent. Word was sent to him, but he did not respond. And for those in the hospital, the quiet spoke more than any visit. Meanwhile, Jason continued excavating. He had a name now. A DOJ leak traced back to Valentine via a proxy firm involved in both the ELQ probe and the hospital funding board. Drew's legal issues, Willow's project shutdown, and potentially the growing friction inside GH were all linked. Someone was pulling strings in the background, and their goal was to gradually erode the Quartermain family's foundation. Jason made a choice that night. He would confront Valentine. Not as a friend, not as a previous ally, but as someone who saw how far corruption might spread if no one stopped it. Before the week finished, Jason would push Valentine to answer for what he knew, or face the consequences. Drew tried to protect Willow from further suffering, but she wouldn't have it. She preferred to stand with him rather than be protected from the storm. Their late-night chat at the Quartermain estate was raw, honest, and full of deep dread. They both understood things may become worse before they got better. Months of family betrayal had strained their trust, yet it still held, albeit just barely. Willow revealed something she hadn't before. She was terrified. Not only for Drew, but for the future they were attempting to establish. Every time they tried to breathe, another fire started. And this time it was more than just survival. It was about whether they could continue battling without losing themselves in the process.